after my grandma had died, my mom, when she went to like the funeral home and saw her for the first time, she just looked awful. And my mom freaked out and, told the guy, like, what have you done? Like, this isn't my mother. I'll be back. And she went and she went to my grandma's house and she got like a wig and she got makeup and she went back to the funeral home and she did her mother's own makeup and hair and everything and made her look beautiful. And I didn't know this story. And my mom told me like a couple of years ago, which was like, a decade or more after my grandma had died. But I remember at my grandma's funeral being like, that is the prettiest like I've ever seen a dead body look. Like she just looked beautiful and like, alive, not how they normally look. So when my mom told me that, I was just like, that's the most like beautiful story about just like one last, kind of kindness you can do for your mother and stuff. And I just always thought like that would make a really good, moment in a film.
Hey Amanda, thanks so much for joining today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to, meet you and have a little chat here. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, I've really enjoyed your writing on Substack and FilmStack over this past year, and I just wanted to ask right off the bat, how did you find FilmStack, and how do you feel like it's sort of helped you in your career and outreach and in general your filmmaking process?
Well, I first came to it, I think it was through Ted Hope, really. I was like on his newsletter, and then he sent something when he like switched over to the platform. And so I checked it out over there, and then he started posting regularly. So I would go over there and read all of his posts, and then like slowly, it started becoming more engaging and people were commenting. And for a while I just kind of read and sat back, and then I started commenting. And then he, was very certain always to like tell people why they should start their own newsletters if they were a filmmaker and stuff. And it was something I never really thought I'd do because I find myself kind of more like shy and introverted. It's like, what am I going to talk about in a newsletter? And he kept sending the things out over and over about it. And then, with that and more interaction within the community and kind of commenting on people's things and just seeing like how positive it was and where all these conversations were going, I was like, you know what, maybe I can do this. So then that's what I just was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to start one. I'm not the most regular poster or anything. I can't, really like have a set schedule. I just kind of like do it whenever I'm inspired to do anything. But I love reading like what everyone writes and just the way that it's become this really like supportive community of shared knowledge and experiences and, the way like people are getting together and making like real action in the world now. It's just it's amazing. It's been like an absolute treat to like see develop in that way and over just like a couple of years.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's great to hear. I also I think found it through Ted Hope because I'd read Hope for Film like you probably in its different forms over the years, and so I feel like it was again, I also just sort of wasn't quite, I was wanting to write, but I felt like I didn't have the time and I didn't want to, kind of commit to something that I didn't want to, couldn't keep up basically. So I just enjoyed reading. There was only a few film people back then. I feel like this was 21, 22, sometime around then. And then finally at the end of 24, I dove in. And boy, what a difference that's made. I've never been a part of an online community. Have you ever done message boards or anything like that?
Not too much online, but I used to run a nonprofit and it was a filmmaking collective and everyone would help each other on their projects. So we had more like, just email systems where we do, and I'd organize like we had a monthly membership meeting and we would do programs and stuff that way. So it was kind of like an offline community, but that's what like Substack now feels kind of like an online version of that, but even better and bigger because it reaches, so much more. But yeah, posting initially was a little like weird because I never did like the whole, yeah, forums or anything. I was never active on. So, but I love your newsletter too, by the way. So.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. No, and you're such a supportive member of the community too. I really appreciate, like I see not only that you post about my stuff, but I just see you all over the place, like either liking or sharing or restacking. And that really it brings things to light that I might not have seen. It might be someone I don't know about yet. So I think that's really the magic of Substack in the film community, at least, is all these people sharing things. It's kind of like what Facebook was at the start, where people would share magazine articles, maybe, or something I wouldn't have known about. So thank you for all your positive support. And I guess my question next would be how has this affected has it affected your film writing or your film, the way you think about how you go about making movies?
I'm a little bit, it's definitely like opened me up to sharing more about it, and especially like in a public way, because normally it's like I would have my film consultant or someone that I would kind of talk about things with, but didn't really feel comfortable, putting it out there in front of more people. So it's helped in that way. And it's definitely helped me, like all the advice and stuff from people, as far as like financing and this and that. It's stuff that I'm just clueless about, but it's slowly I'm learning, how to do that and everything. So I think it is really like improving my overall view of, especially nowadays, like building your audience and doing all this and really realizing like bigger steps in that area that I can take for filmmaking. Because I've always been kind of like the independent, non-D version of it, where it's like doing your own things. And Filmmakers Alliance, that was, part of our thing. Like we were very independent, never wanted to be a part of the system. We were like, greenlight yourself was our motto. And so it was like, go and make your film. But this like brings together just all the other aspects besides just like the actual making of the film. So I think it's really helped me, slowly start to put all that together. So hopefully once I do get, these features going, they'll be able to be successful in this new, world and all the avenues that they have and stuff. So
Absolutely. No, I think it's great the way that we're trying to find new ways to distribute, or like coffee house cinema. I'm finding a lot of inspiration there. Jake at Film Journ, I think is also, sounds like he's doing a lot of great stuff. I enjoyed talking to him a few weeks back, and just the way the community in general has been stepping up. Michael Levine, I know, is sort of spearheading a project for Ted's sort of massive goal of having like a database of all the theaters that might be interested in doing a run, if you're willing to tour the country and go to all these different places. So a lot of people, I think, putting things together and trying to see what's going to help. Because definitely, Regal isn't interested, or at least not if you pay him a lot, right? So
yep, yeah, and that's one of the like the greatest things is because when FilmStack started to get bigger and bigger, it was like, oh, is it all just going to be people, talking about all this stuff and throwing out all these ideas, which is great and necessary, but a lot of times, it could just stop there. But how people are actually taking this stuff out into the real world and literally building all the things they were talking about is just, it's so inspiring and amazing. So really great.
yeah, no, talk without action is as what we know it is. So we gotta act as filmmakers or as artists, otherwise you're just another kind of tool at the bar telling everybody you're something you're not, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. Like everyone in LA is a screenwriter and they're gonna make it, that sort of thing. Yeah,
well, we all are gonna make it. Damn it.
we are.
I think it really is. But what this movement's doing, I think, is just saying, you know what, we all got obsessed with these specific ways of making it. What making it meant to us, and once the mantra I've read over and over again is not waiting for permission. And I'm kind of getting tired of it, to be honest, because it's like, all right, I'm not waiting, I got it. Maybe, but again, like many things, you've got to go above and beyond once you pass what you know, and keep reminding yourself, because it is easy to forget that, we would all like to have that big premiere and have a movie playing at, thousands of theaters maybe, but at the same time, it's like, well, if I'm being honest, the kinds of movies that I really enjoy are often the ones that just play at art houses, so I'm not necessarily excited to make a robot punching movie or something like that might play 4,000 theaters at once, So but what can we do to not just say, okay, well, I had my theater run in the festival circuit and that's that, right? Like I think trying to find that way to get something better than just like, well, it's on, Tubi, which is great. Tubi's great, but it's also like playing in theaters is even better. Like getting people to stop what they're doing and enjoy your movie for an hour and a half rather than like, hit ads or scroll through and, be shopping. I
Yeah,
don't know.
while they're
This
sitting on
whole
their phone and yeah, two
now let
screen
me
thing,
let
right?
me just sort of take a side dive here into verticals. Have you checked out this whole verticals movement at all?
No, I can't. It breaks my heart. I don't know, like, I'm a photographer as well, so composition, everything, like, I just wide, I just can't. And then also like the content, it just sounds like it's all soap opera dramas, and like that's just not my thing. So I have not
I'm
done
so
any of
glad to hear that. You passed the WTF stop test.
it. Nice.
All right. We were about to
Yeah.
end if you were like, oh, yeah, I'm developing a vertical series.
Yeah,
Um,
no.
at the end of last semester, I was just sort of hearing about verticals for the first time and kind of checked them out very briefly because I was, just curious. I tend to be very kind of obstinate about these kind of things. But I was like, you know what? Open your mind, just see what it's about. And so I went to I read an article and something maybe I forget what, and I went to just check out a couple of the samples of what they were talking about, and I mean it makes the run of the mill NBC soap opera look like Gandhi or look like Gone with the Wind
Oh
or
gosh,
I
yes.
mean it is just so utterly ridiculous what they're I mean it's like someone's married in the next like the first episode, which is 1 minute. Someone gets married in the first minute, and then they find out in the second minute their husband's a werewolf, and then in the third minute, their mother-in-law's a vampire, and before you know it, you're just like how stupid. I mean, you would think this would be a Saturday Night Live skit where you're like, how could we make fun of the stupidest possible thing? And of course, they're blowing up.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and that's the part that gets me though. It's like, why does it have to be? Well, there's twofold. Like, first, I don't understand why people can't just turn their phone to the side, right?
Doesn't make sense. It
It doesn't
doesn't
make
make
sense to
sense.
me.
It's not
Like, why
that
don't you
hard.
just turn your phone? Yeah. And then it's like they talk about verticals, and then it is all just this like drama. So it's like, which part of it is the attractive part? You know what I mean? Like the vertical format or the drama?
I
But
think
yeah,
it's the drama. I think it's the
yeah,
drama. I
yeah.
think it's a
So
hyper. It's drama on steroids, on
yeah,
crack, and on fentanyl all at the same
yeah.
time.
So you get your 5 minute
Uh,
dopamine drama fix, and yeah, I don't know.
we have to hold our own. We have to, make sure that we're not just, giving in on this fight for like instant gratification. I really enjoyed your short, all about my mother. Where did that story come from? Like it felt very personal. What was it based on life events or how'd you get
It
to it?
was. It was based on a story that my mom had told me about, a moment that she had with her mother after her death. Um, I guess like spoilers or whatever. I can give it away. It's fine. Um, so, when my after my grandma had died, sorry, my mom, when she went to like the funeral home and saw her for the first time, she just looked awful, and my mom freaked out and told the guy like, "What have you done? Like, this isn't my mother. I'll be back." And she went and she went to my grandma's house and she got like a wig and she got makeup and she went back to the funeral home and she did her mother's own makeup and hair and everything and made her look beautiful. And I didn't know this story. And my mom told me like a couple of years ago, which was like, a decade or more after my grandma had died. But I remember at my grandma's funeral being like, that is the prettiest like I've ever seen a dead body look. Like she just looked beautiful and like, alive, not how they normally look. So when my mom told me that, I was just like, that's the most like beautiful story about just like one last, kind of kindness you can do for your mother and stuff. And I just always thought like that would make a really good, moment in a film. And so I kind of like put it, in my notes to go back to one day. And then I hadn't made a film for a while and I decided I wanted to make another short. And then I was just sitting there and I was like, you know what, that would actually make like a really good contained short if I just like turn that into one. So that's what it was.
That's so great to hear. I loved how you set the character up at the beginning too, right? So you know what your kind of your final point is, right? So how do you get there? How do you get the audience there through your character? And as a gallery, I guess she was a gallery owner, or she was the person, she was setting up the gallery, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Like
she was
gallery
setting like
director.
hanging, yeah, director. The way that you have her so officious and so kind of meticulous makes me believe that last scene where she has to do that, the makeup for her mom. And then it also kind of gives me the sense of her character, like right off the bat. Was that also based on personal experience, or did that just come from you sort of thinking through what the character, who the character could be?
Yeah, that just came from thinking through the character be. So it's like I had this moment that I wanted to do, and I thought like, okay, it would make a really good transformative moment as well, you know. And I was thinking about like mother-daughter relationships and how they're often strained and, hard. So I thought, okay, like, I'll make them estranged, and it's like she's kind of, has nothing to do with her mother, and she because of the way she was raised with her mom, who was, like an alcoholic, she always had to control everything. She became very controlling, very precise. So I wanted to like show that right from the beginning. Like this is someone like her hair's up perfectly, she's perfectly kept, like everything is cold, everything is, very symmetrical and in place, and just even her apartment is the same sort of feeling and stuff. And so I wanted to like have that contrast with like her mom's house, how her mom's house was just very warm and cluttered. There was stuff everywhere, and it was just like, very like soft and free and warm. So it's like even though she did have this bad childhood there, there was still this warmth there, and I wanted to like, my favorite part about it was creating these characters without using a lot of dialogue. So there's like barely any dialogue in the film, and it's like, how do you show like who her mother was through all this stuff that's like in the house and everything. And so that I had a lot of fun with because I actually, I was trying to find the perfect location for it because a lot of the stuff in there is very specific. It's like all my grandma, like it was like that stuff from how my grandma was. So I had all these specific things I wanted, and I couldn't find, the right location. So then me and my husband, we actually like we shipped our kids to Idaho to my mom, and we just transformed my house. Like for months I was collecting furniture and props from like Craigslist for free, and like my whole garage was stuffed with this house. And so like we changed over three of our rooms and shot it here just to get like all those details right. So it was a lot of fun. But
Nice. Oh, that sounds so great. No, and it's great too that you did so much communication through the camera, through the compositions, the little affectations of the actors. That all came through. It was great. Um, so so have you made a feature before, or shorts, or what's your background? I know you're in this non D50 thing, working towards making a feature there. Is that your first feature, or is that one of
yeah.
many?
Yeah, no, that would be my first feature. I have several scripts, feature scripts that I want to make, but this one that I'm developing for the non-D50 is called Unclaimed. And it's a character-based drama. It's about five different individuals in Los Angeles living on the margins, and how they, struggle with loneliness and isolation. And it was inspired by, there's this thing in Los Angeles called the Burial of the Unclaimed. So every year, the bodies, people that die and their bodies go unclaimed, they go to the county, and the county has 3 years, they cremate them, and then they have 3 years to see if they can find anyone to claim them. And those that don't get buried in like a mass grave, and they have this beautiful interfaith ceremony for it. So I heard about that, and then like I went and saw it, and I was just really inspired by that. And so I wanted to, build a film around that because it had me wondering the question like, what is a life worth living if no one's there to claim you in the end? Like, what does that mean? And so that's kind of what the film's exploring.
That sounds so incredible. I had no idea about that kind of process there. So,
Yeah. Oh no,
did you,
it's beautiful.
how did you find that process? I mean,
Um,
how?
oh, sorry. There was a piece on NPR, I believe. It was funny because I have a writing consultant that I work with, and so I wanted to do a new script. And we had his this process where he's like, okay, write down, a couple of ideas, things that have been haunting you, things you might want to explore. So I wrote down two of these ideas and I sent it to him. And then the night before we were going to meet, I heard this NPR thing about the ceremony of the Unclaimed and everything. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Like, I have to check that out a little more. So I looked into it a little bit. And then when I met with him, he was like, okay, let's talk about your ideas. And I was like, well, I actually have another one. He's like, you know what? I have another one too that I wanted to run by you, but you go first. And I told him, he was like, that's the exact same thing I was going to talk to you about. And so it was just like, it's meant to be. All right. So that's what we
Oh,
did.
that is
Yeah,
fantastic. So you guys both had NPR on at the same time.
exactly. We were both listening to it and yeah, crazy.
Some
So
good synchronicity there.
yes, absolutely.
I love that because, my whole philosophy is the world is a lot more interesting than anything I can think of, right? I've had some good ideas here or there, but I think, the way things happen in the world, like you would never think to do it that way. For my non-D50 movie I'm working on right now, it's called DINERMAN, and I had the same thing where I found this character, DINERMAN, through reading the paper. So almost NPR.
Yeah.
It was the New York Times. New York Times. So it was the NPR of newspapers.
Yeah. Nice.
But anyway, so it's a very similar thing where I didn't have any idea about this guy, but I was like, who goes out and tries to save a diner? What does that even mean? And I read the article, and I love diners. They're like true, dear to my heart. My dad, my grandparents used to always take me to diners. It was like part of the family tradition. And my family even had Greek. I'm part Greek, and we had a Greek diner up in Michigan when my grandparents moved here from Greece. So anyway, so diners are in my blood, so to speak. And so I find this guy trying to save diners. So I'm like, okay, ding, ding, ding. This is a movie idea. And it's, the process of making the film, I've been shooting for several years now. And now I'm determined to use this non-D50 energy to just finish it up, or at least get it to a point where I can release one version of it and then see if there's more to do. But it's, again, just I never would have, come up with this as a narrative film or something. And I've never thought of myself as a documentary filmmaker either. So that's been interesting to kind of approach, use my narrative training. And I've shot plenty of docs as a DP, but I've only made narratives as a director. So
Okay, yeah, that's what I
um,
was gonna say. Have you shot documentaries as a DP? Like, do you like documentaries? Do you find it more freeing or do you like the narrative?
to be honest, I like narrative better for two reasons. One is I have assistants. And I'm not a wimp. I can go shoot by myself anywhere. It's okay. But I like the communal aspect of film sets. And I spend enough time by myself, either editing or writing or doing stuff, that I really appreciate just like having a crew of like 30 or 50 people, getting to know them very intensely over the course of a couple months, and then maybe never seeing them again, or maybe working with them again. So for me, so much of this film business is about that kind of running away to the circus and going off to some place I've never been. But that said, I've learned so much working on documentaries. I worked on Enron, the Smartest Guys in the Room, with Maurice Alberti. I used to gaff for her, and she was great. Alex Gibney was the director on that, and we did another one about the War on Terror the following year, which actually won the Oscar for Best Documentary. And that one was just incredible to just hear these soldiers' stories, talk about guarding these prisoners. One of them died, trying to figure out, how that pertained to their situation, just the War on Terror in general. And for many years, I worked on reality shows. Like when the financial crisis hit, all my film work went away. So I had a great decade starting out of getting to work on, amazing indie films that were financed by people having too much money on Wall Street. And then all the money vanished as soon as, the financial crisis hit. But unfortunately, a good friend of mine got on Four Weddings, this TLC show. And so I started shooting Four Weddings. And at the time, I was very embarrassed. I was like, oh God, I'm shooting ridiculous wedding show where these brides are fighting each other over who has the best dress. Like, this is not why I got into film. And then I got over some of my pretensions. And in hindsight, me and my buddy have talked about this a lot. And we're just like, wow, we got so much out of that because we would have to just go out and film wherever and make it look good. And I might shoot for 5 hours straight, like going through an event. And that kind of training, even though the content wasn't something I was particularly interested in, just the losing, losing those film jobs and having to deal, I think made me a better person in general. Like, I appreciate more what's going on in my career, but also I'm a better shooter. Like, I can do a 5-minute shot now that I've done a 5-hour shot. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly. That's awesome. It all adds up and it all helps. So,
Yeah, yeah. And the funny thing is, I've gotten more accolades for my 4 weddings work than I've gotten for all my great so-called great indie
oh
films or whatever.
no. Yeah.
Certainly, more millions of people have seen my work on that
Yeah.
crap than on my. That's my version of verticals, I guess.
Yep, exactly. Nice.
My
Yeah,
personal
I've never seen
vertical.
that show, unfortunately. Now I'll have
Oh
to check
no,
it out.
no.
Yeah,
Fortunately,
no, yeah.
it's fine. It's fine. I don't want to denigrate it. I know, but it's still funny because so many of my students, when they find out I've worked on it, they flip out. They're like, "Oh, I used to watch that with my mom or my aunt, and we loved it. I've seen every episode. I can't believe you shot it." And so it is funny. Like, you never know what's gonna hit home for someone, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So moving forward, you've got your NonDē 50 going, and so I think I saw you say you're looking for a producer. I think I saw you stack that at some point
Yeah.
recently, and then you just mentioned it. So I guess as a PSA here, let's say like the producer of your dreams is watching. What is a producer to you as a director, as a writer? What are you looking for in terms of support or in terms of like, just what is the role? Because producer is such a nebulous role often, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, there's all different types of producers. I'm really looking for someone who connects with the film and like the purpose of the film. It's really important to me. Like, it's kind of like a what we're calling like modern social realism. So it's like, yes, it is like a issue driven film, but it's more about like the emotional tone and like the humanity element. So it's like, yes, it's surrounding this big issue, but the film is really about the people in it. And so someone that just like understands that and wants to do that, I want to plan on doing a big impact campaign with it as well. So it's like, yeah, festivals and all that are great, but I also want to do a lot of like community screenings because there's opportunity for that with all the characters. They each have their own kind of like community around it. So do that and like just get the word out and awareness to what's happening, because the sad part is that a lot of these people that are unclaimed, they have people that could claim them, but they can't afford to. So it's almost like death becomes it becomes a I'm blanking on the word, like a class issue, basically. Like some people are,
Yeah, I mean, it's very expensive to die.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I was not aware of that until like my father's death, and then all of a sudden you see all these bills come through, and yeah, it's horrifying. Yeah, it's like I think really best sent up in The Big Lebowski, where they're like, "Is there not a cheaper receptacle?"
yeah,
And
exactly.
Donnie ends up in a Folgers can, and obviously, that's a narrative, so we can do that. We won't want to do that to a real human, but I certainly now that I've been through that process in a little bit of a way, you sort of understand like, wow, all right, so if you were just paying for your buddy's death and they didn't have a family like Donnie didn't, or like so many people don't, who wants to get kind of sidled with that.
Yeah,
It's one thing if it's your loved one, but So in terms of your approach to that, like as you've been imagining your film, do you have a process for moving into the visualization, or if not storyboarding, thinking about like how would you shoot it? Are you thinking like a kind of docu neo-realist style, or like have you gone forward at all with those kind of ideas yet, or are you waiting till you have more ducks in a row in terms of getting the production off the ground?
Yeah, no, that stuff, like comes just even as I'm writing it. So, I've already thought about like a lot of that. I have a lookbook which has, the mood and the tone and a lot of it. It is, I do see it as very like naturalist, it's very, in that realist, like who's a good example? Like, Andrea Arnold, maybe something like Bird or like Fish Tank, in that kind of vein. So it does have that like naturalist social realism look to it. I don't want to use any known actors or anything because I want it to feel like authentic, and they would just like take away from that. Um,
Right, right.
yeah, and so as far as like that, the tone piece of it, I have that down, and then yeah, like shooting it, I keep going back and forth, and that's why I'm trying to figure out, um, it's a low budget, but it's not like, like I can go and just like shoot it with two people, so I was going back and forth on whether or not trying it that way, but I really, don't want to. I didn't write it as like a small film like that, so there's quite a few locations and quite a few characters and people, so I'm going to keep it as low as possible, but so that's why I'm in the process of also trying to figure out how to raise money for it, so
Right, right.
looking for someone that can help with that as well, or at least consult, because I've just never been very good at that part of it. Raising money or knowing anyone who has it who wants to give it away. Um, it's a big
Yes,
ask,
the
especially
artist's lament.
yeah. Especially like a film like this, like everyone I talk to, they're like, oh, people aren't really like, putting money into that kind of film, like you were talking, or maybe I was talking with someone else earlier, but it's like, yeah, the contained horror film. It's like, well, that's not the kind of film that I make. So it's like this is
Right.
what I'm trying to make. But as far as producing, I was saying, so a partner who connects with the tone and the purpose of the thing, but also someone who is, willing to bring, even like creative input and like help make sure that it's, at the level it needs to be, and whether or not there's things that I can do to raise the bar on, the story of it and stuff.
Have you done any preliminary shooting at this event? Have you either gotten stills or any video, or
Yeah,
have you found any archival video of it?
yeah. I have some video of it, and that's what I was going back and forth about whether or not I would try to, because there's interwoven stuff with the actual ceremony. So I was like, do I shoot the real ceremony? Um, and I don't think so now because I did make it a little, I added this other story. So there's more of a story in that part of it. But I do have some video of it. And they have like the full things online and stuff. Um, so, I've been kind of doing a little bit of that and going around and like shooting like some, like finding homeless encampments and shooting them because one of the characters in it is a homeless person. Um, so I've been doing a little bit of scouting in that way and stuff. Um,
Nice. Yeah, no, it takes a long time, right? You got to build it up, and I love this ideation part of it too, where you can kind of like either draw storyboards, or like I find whenever I'm doing different things, it more leads to other ideas, right? Like if I'm drawing a shot or going through stills I've taken on set, like as a scout,
yeah.
like that can lead to more ideas. So I don't know. I feel like I really enjoyed this part where you don't quite have the pressure of shooting in 20 days or 15 days, whatever the budget allows. But this sounds like something that'd be really fascinating and really uh, be an interesting way to bring us into a discussion about the haves and have-nots, and what it means, like you said, to end your life with nobody there to memorialize you. I mean, that's a pretty tough thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I always think back to a huge movie for me as a child was Amadeus, and the way that his body is just unceremoniously dumped into the mass grave, and they throw some lye on it at the end. Like I remember that, like the impact as I think I was 8 or 9 when I saw that with my dad, and I was like, "What's that? Why are they?" And he explained what was happening, and yeah, just that idea that here's the most celebrated composer of all time.
Hmm.
At that moment was not in good standing.
Hmm.
So there's hope for all of us yet, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the thing, like, it sounds like a very heavy film and stuff, but I'm not trying to be like didactic, and it's just very like about the lives of these 5 people, it's just kind of like a slice of it. So yeah, so hopefully people can see some of themselves in some of these people and stuff. And then kind of like also make you think like, oh, maybe I should get to know people better, because all of these people are kind of people that people might see and have an instant, idea of what they think their life is. And then it's like, no, but there could be all these other layers of it, that you can't see or that you don't know. And so that's what I tried to do with all of them as well. So,
Well, it sounds like you've got a really good mix of like it has a political element without being political, like hit you over the head with it. Is
yeah,
that
yeah,
how you?
yeah. That's the point that I was trying to do. It's like social realism, but it's more emotional than political. It's about like the emotional infrastructure of the present moment. So go into it that way, and then hopefully it'll stay with people a little more, because they won't feel like you're just preaching at them. They'll really feel it. So that's the goal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think just for my 2 cents, if you even come close to that style you set up, or just the filmmaking quality of your short film, I think what you're going for will come across. So I have faith in you. Let's
Thank you.
let's get you a producer. Let's get you that
Exactly.
producer, and
Yes. Anyone who
any
has money
producers
wants to give.
listening. Let's get out here, get Amanda's film made.
Please.
Well, so great to talk to you today, Amanda. I really appreciate you taking the time, and great to get to know you a little bit. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. It was great getting to know you as well. Thank you. Appreciate it.